Hi, my name is Jobby, and by popular demand, hint hint, we're taking a look at that one giant robot from Ready Player One.
Actually, the RX-78-2 Gundam is from a 1979 anime called Mobile Suit Gundam. How could you not know that, you stupid idiot? I've lost all of my respect for you. How could you disrespect the Gundam franchise that way? I've been a fan of yours since everything
Thanks to Christopher Guajardo for providing this figure to my P.O. Box 329 Orange, California 90651. This robot Damashii figure, links in the description, of the classic Granddaddy Gundam, links in the description, is part of a subline of robot Damashii called Anime. From what I can tell, the anime line is focused on anime-accurate proportions and high posability. I have to imagine that giving this figure anime-accurate proportions was a bit of a challenge, because the original Gundam anime wasn't even anime-accurate. This one's my favorite. The only thing on this amazingly sculpted figure that's not anime accurate are these barely visible panel lines. But for you Gunpla builders, I'd recommend you get a fine tip marker and go over those panel lines yourself. Now that's something I haven't thought about in a long time.
Why did you stop building Gunpla?
That's a good question, actually. Life comes at you fast. There is a part of me that wants to get back into at least building and panel lighting my model kits, but painting model kits to the best of my ability doesn't seem feasible for me right now. In between all the filming, the editing, the wallowing in my own self-doubt, I'm sure you understand, right?
Reveal more Gunpla!
The only part of the figure that is panel lined is the face. As a former Gunpla painter, the precise painting on the head, especially those yellow Vulcan guns there, are making me a bit jealous. I still paint eyes better though, I'll never tell. While we're at the head, this sharp V-fin is removable, and you can replace it with this more flexible part. And this part makes it look like those Vulcan guns are firing. And let me tell you right now, that's far from the only accessory you get with this guy. In addition to a pair of fists, you get a pair of ball-jointed grabby hands, and if you bend this hinge joint and really work that arm posability, you could get him to reach for those beam sabers. Hinge joint at the backpack makes that pose easier. Remove it and attach any one of the two beam saber effect parts you get. This peg hole connection is a bit tight, so you do want to be careful not to snap that peg.
That doesn't look Gundam-y enough for me.
To complete the iconic Gundam look, you get the classic shield, and this part. Slide it into the hand, and that doesn't look quite right. However, you get another ball-jointed piece, and you could plug it right into there. Now that's a Gundam if I've ever seen one, ain't that right? Well, of course he doesn't care when I try to actually cater to him. With that ball joint still attached, you can plug it into the back. Now if we remove this part and bring in this part, you could store the beam rifle here. Pretty cool feature at first, but there's no real way to plug it into the figure, so fuck it. And the beam rifle can be held with this pair of trigger finger hands. Position the scope and the handle, and you can use these special butterfly joints to bring the arms closer together, and that will allow you to double hand the rifle. But this hand's not quite grasping the handle, which is why you get a pair of action hands. I call them action hands because they're not quite the open hands, you see? And all of his hands fit on this included tree, but let's get back to the rifle. You actually get an attachable beam effect part for the rifle. Just don't confuse it for the sabers. And if that wasn't enough firepower for you, you get a huge bazooka. Hinge joint here allows you to adjust the position of the bazooka. You don't get a compatible firing effect part, but you do get this clip. And the peg at the end of that allows you to... But that's not the only use for this hole. You could stick a Bandai Tamashii Nations Act 5 stand in there, or you could plug it into his taint. To make him look more natural in the air, you get a pair of thruster effect parts. They can also attach to the bottom of his feet. Combine those parts with a sharp ton of articulation, and you could get some really dynamic poses. And speaking of dynamic poses, bend at the toe, ankle moves up, ball joint at the ankle guard, a proper ankle ball joint. You even get a hinge joint here for maximum pivot. Double bend at the knee, and let me just lift up this ball joint joint at the front skirt so you can get a good look at that thigh swivel, ball joint at the hip, and there's a hinge joint here which allows for a ridiculous kick, and the leg can move back that far. Hinge joint at the side skirts, that makes room for a beautiful spread. Ball joint at the waist, every ball joint can be one of these. You also get one of those at the lower arm. Another one right here, you get a hinge joint, and that gives us a good look at the ball joint here. Ball joint at the head and the base of the neck, hinge joint at the head, and you can look down that far. If you think I skimmed over some pieces of articulation, I covered it throughout the review. Fuck off. Out of all the joints you get on this figure, the ab crunch is a bit weak, and so is the arcing back. Now, I would say that's because of a core fighter in here, but a core fighter is one of the few things you don't get with this guy. But what you do get, this is the final accessory, I promise, is this longer than normal handle and this curved beam saber, and that just makes beam saber poses that much more powerful.
Excuse me? The beam saber never looked like that in the show. Even the Gundam figure betrays me.
That felt about as good as handling this figure. I almost want to forget about model kits altogether and go exclusively Robot Damashii if they weren't so fucking small. I mean, he's barely taller than the Figma Model Economy, SH Monster Arts Godzilla, Masterpiece Optimus Prime, and here's my custom painted Master Grade Zaku. When it comes to giant robots, size does matter, at least to me. But even then, I can still say this figure is amazing. As for the price of this guy, not so amazing. But if you get the special anniversary edition from the Big Bad Toy Store, well, that special anniversary figure does come with extra accessories, but is it worth it? Was it worth it?
Did you really do it?
Yes.
And what did it cost?
Nothing, I feel great.
My universe hate was, but I'm so alone.